Pregame.com.
Welcome back. Pregame.tv, Steve Fezzik, Teddy Covers, breaking down the Sweet 16, things to be looking for going forward. Teddy, exciting time of year.
It is. I mean, and Sweet 16 weekend, there's something special about it. You know, the opening weekend of the big dance here in Las Vegas is insanity. You know, everyone's on spring break. It's just college kids galore, hanging out in the sports books, drinking beer, and making bets from dusk till dawn or dawn till dusk. But the Sweet 16's got a different feel to it. You know, there's only going to be 12 games in the NCAA tournament this weekend. Four Thursday, 4 Friday, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. It's not nearly as much action. There was more action in one day last Thursday than there's going to be over the course of the weekend here. The nuances are very different, and the town feels different. It's still rocking and rolling here in Las Vegas, but it's not quite that same college kid beer-fueled frenzy that it was for 4 days last weekend.
It'd be fair to say that we're going to stay up all night throughout our March Madness, and this would kind of be like midnight, if you will. And midnight means no more Cinderella, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's the number one takeaway from the Sweet 16. You brought up the Florida Gulf Coast as your class example from 2 years ago. When your double-digit seeds, particularly your small one-bid conference double-digit seeds, make it to the Sweet 16. And there were none this year, so there's none that we can fade. The only two mid-majors made it to the Sweet 16 are Wichita State and Gonzaga. Those are pretty serious mid-majors. But in general, yeah, the clock strikes midnight here for most of the Cinderellas. And in general, your double-digit seeds get bounced right here in round number 3.
And it makes a lot of sense, because what happens is that you win that first round game, you're all excited, but you only have a day and a half, and you're in some hotel room, and maybe that'll keep you out of trouble. And then the Florida Gulf Coast of the world can win another game, but then you bring them back to their campus for 3 days.
Sure.
Forget about it.
They're rock stars.
They're burning furniture. They're just going nuts. They are, by the time, I can only imagine how much alcohol is consumed by the players by the time they have to play again on Thursday.
And it's certainly worth noting that when you're talking about the coaches for these one-bid league schools that have made a big run to reach the Sweet 16. Look, there are 93 previous Sweet 16 appearances from the 16 coaches that are in the tournament still remaining. Only one coach, Utah's Larry Krystkowiak, has failed to reach a Sweet 16 previously. When one of the Cinderella schools wins a couple of games, it's not just the players who are inexperienced in this role. It's usually their coaching staff who's equally inexperienced in this role, and that tends to show up on the floor.
Right, and that happened, I think, to Georgia Southern would be a good example of hereafter. They obviously didn't get to the Sweet 16, but they won that first game.
Well, they won a pair of games, so.
Then, well, no, they lost to Xavier, so they were just.
No, they played in the play-in.
Oh, right.
Yes.
So, but they after that, so it does fit. They won the 2 games. All of a sudden, they're on ESPN. They're the media darlings, and they crack the cast, and it becomes the story. And then, we got to play a game again, by the way, tomorrow, and and they become the Florida Gulf Coast. But like you talk about the coaching pedigrees, there's a reason that Lon Kruger keeps showing up in the Sweet 16. There's a reason Izzo always kicks butt in the tourney, right?
The best coaches do matter this time of year. And it's not just, look at Coach K at Duke, or Pitino, who's now been to 4 straight Sweet 16. Izzo's now been to 4 straight Sweet 16s. And even with elite programs, it's not easy to reach 4 straight Sweet 16s. It really isn't. And anything can happen. You run into a hot shooting team, you have a cold day yourself, you have a bad matchup, you have a bad flight. Whatever happens, to have that level of consistency from the top coaches, this is one time of year that college basketball coaching really matters, obviously. Not to state not to be Captain Obvious here, but pay attention to your coaches. That's a big takeaway for Sweet 16 betting.
I think also pay attention to, and it's still early in the week, who's showing up the most on ESPN? Who's showing up with Colin Cowherd? Who is showing up on all these sports talk radio shows instead of preparing his team? And I think the poster child of this is I remember when Valpo and Bryce Drew, knocked out one of the Mississippi schools, and I remember their coach was all over. He was like a 4-seeder, that year, and he was appearing in all these talk shows, probably not conducive to advancing, spending all that time with the media, right?
No, and I mean, look, the media is generally wrong, all right? If you're getting your betting information from ESPN or from the CBS shows, you're doing yourself a disservice. And the coaches that are hanging out with these guys in this fraternity, yes, they're doing something that they probably shouldn't be doing in an effort to, there's time for the coaches to spend with the media, and coaches have to do, that's part of their job. And a lot of the nitty-gritty is often done by the assistants, not the head guy. The head guy, is here to smile and wave at the cameras and look good and make the school look good and increase admissions and increase, all that kind of stuff, increase donations from alumni. That's the coach's job every bit as much as it is to figure out the X's and O's on the court. But the best coaches have the best staffs get the work done. The inexperienced guys really suffer when it comes to Sweet 16 and beyond.
One more question that's going to lead and segue into a pick that we both like next week. You pay much attention to the travel and to the venues this upcoming week? How big a deal is that?
Sure, it's every bit as big a deal as it was last weekend. When it comes to friendly venues or not friendly venues, of course, in this particular year, there's not a ton of friendly venues this week. Whereas last week, we had at least a dozen schools that were affected in one way or another by the friendly venue, including the Georgia State squad that you talked about earlier. So it's something that you absolutely need to be aware of, but it's not necessarily anything that's going to pay you immediate dividends for 2015, because I didn't see any of the 8 games being played on Thursday and Friday where there is a significant venue advantage for one squad.
Might disagree with you, but that will sit.
No, there's one. Yes, there is one.
We'll tease it. We'll talk about that particular venue when we come back. We're going to be breaking down the one particular game, Arizona against the X-Men. Stay with us. Pregame.tv.
Beauty. We got.